participating to Sino. Oh, sorry, I can start now?
Yes, if you can begin again. Sorry, I missed.
Yeah, no problem. I know. So, restart. Thank you, Otto Lindeborg, for the invitation to participate in the Sino-Indo-Hellenica. And I congratulate him for this initiative to organize a meeting to propose exploring the development of political thought and philosophy in global perspective, focusing on Greece, India, and China's antiquity. Include the different reality in global perspectives, make a comparison an imperative resource, even at an early stage. Comparison is one of the first actions that the person do to bring the unknown into the dominion to the known. In this way, the scholar performs comparison, consciously or not so much, and especially in she or he is faced with a reality that at the first seems to be very different from his or her own. I started by making such a statement because comparing mark all my writing of this paper. Sometimes I did it consciously, other time I'm not so sure. Writing this paper as a challenge for me took me out of my comfort zone, which is Greek rhetoric. On the other hand, it provided the chance to go deeper into ancient India and its communicative practices, and find out about its countless connection with ancient Greece, both in antiquity and nowadays. My first thought on the India-Greece connection as a road to passage described the giant ants digging for gold in India. So this image resonated in my mind for a long time. So I decided to start with this. Or using the terminology of classic rhetoric, this passage will be my prologue. In sequence, I will talk about metaphor and simile. And in Greek and Indian literature, his connection and the rhetoric and logic, and you analyze Nyaya Sutra to finally demonstrate my impression about India and the Greek rhetoric can teach to us. So you can see this passage of a wrote on the screen. And in the next is an illustration in the 19th century about this passage. If you look attention to horse in the middle, it's devoured by the ant. So a remarkable description of India in Herodotus stories, which marked the European imagination for many centuries, is the episode of the giant ants capable of finding gold. The description had an enormous impact on the Greek audience, and the Herodotus authority contributed to considering this through many centuries later. For example, when Alexander General arriving to the Indus Valley, they also confirmed the presence of these fantastic creatures. They are found in the central desert, and not so big as dog, but bigger than fox. So when the Indians come to the place with their sacks, they fill us with the sand and ride away back with all speed. For, as the person say, the ants 40 will send them out and give chase. We, you will see, so much swifter than all other creatures, than if Indians made not host of a way while they want our mastery, not on of the world escape. In fact, Herodotus never visited the region. The direct contact between Greeks and the Indians is only confirmed much later, after the incursion of the Macedonian king Alexander and his stories, who visited the region of India. In Herodotus' time, knowledge about the Indian researched the Greek through the Persian, who never lost this intermediary role. We know for the fact that there is no giant ant capable to destroy everything in India, and the The animal described probably referred to the Himalaya mammoth. This animal, when digging, produces structure similar to a anthill and can reveal gold as a beard. The description of the rock reveals India's position in ancient Greek imagination, a fantastic land. Furthermore, like Egypt, India is seen as a source of wisdom. As reflected in the narrative of the encounter between Alexander and Brahma, presenting all verses of the Romance of Alexander, and in the stories on Escrito, Nearchos, Aristobulus, Plutarch, Megathemis, Arrian. Most Greek references to India are from the late period, like information found in Photius' Bibliotheca, who claims to have read catches of Chinos, works, Persia, and India, which contain a report about Indian territory and people. Another example is Nomos of Papolis from 5th century, who wrote the Dionysiaca, an epic poem with 48 songs that narrate a warlike expedition by Dionysus to India. Greek appropriate India guide us to discuss between that identity and authority. In other terms, how the idea of self and others, or hater others, because the category of others aggregates a miscellaneous of different characteristics that become the same to make intelligible to other people. I say that because Brazil, where I'm from, has also seen a fantastic land with its impeccable ants. This passage from Herodotus reminds me a description of European travelers in Brazil between the 60th and 19th century.
Sorry, Priscilla, can I
stop
you for a while? Have you put the PowerPoint moving yet, or?
You see the PowerPoint?
We can only see the first
oh, first sorry. Now can see.
Yeah, can you like put it in as a slideshow?
Yes, but I put in slideshow. I don't know what happened because to me it's changed. Okay, but could you in that case like just click the slides like they are now, so that you change now? Yeah, now I can see them, but when you had the slideshow, no one could see them moving. So, but now when you have them in this way without the slideshow, then they move for us. Sorry, I will start the. Apparently you can put them in play mode as well. Okay, you can see this, the second slide with the illustration of Jacob. Yeah, now I can see them. Now they move, but. Oh, sorry, guys, very sorry. It's not your fault, it's some technical issue. Oh. But can you move them manually like this then while you talk? Is it possible? Change now or no? You see. Now I only see there is no slideshow now. So now it's only this second slide still. Oh my God, I think now, okay. I think I will present it this way. Yeah, if you can, that would be the best. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So this it's I talk about this this illustration 19th century. So you can see in the middle the ants, the giant ants, and like the horses and the expedition attacked by the giant ants. Now it's a major. It's a So now I will present a passage of the book 10 années au Brésil by François-Auguste Birth. Just pay attention in some part, like it's stress, the part. So, ma première pensée fut terminer complètement tout, car c'est pouvant être autre chose qu'un range qui pouvait être comme j'avais à peu près ou l'a fait. J'ai quitté Détroit où j'étais quand je me trouvais enveloppé de paix de la paix pour ma légion de fourmis. Pour le temps de me lever et réserver tout ce qui comptait pour décoller, je suis à tomber toutes les jambes en faisant tout l'effort possible pour me déballer de mes ennemis. Donc, you can see the ants are described like furious enemies. Continues. Sur la largeur de 2 mètres, à peu près totalement serré, qu'on voit par un poste de terrain de mirage, mirar de formigas, voyagent, marcher sans être arrêté par un obstacle. J'aurais bien voulu voir mon fusil que j'ai oublié dans ma précipitation. C'est la description de, sorry, this illustration, it's about the attack not only by ants, but the insect too. And finally, j'ai tué quelques sauts, j'ai créé armée mémorable de fourmis et laissé le passage libre. Mes chasses, j'étais transformée en séquelles. Tout ce qui j'étais mangeable devait dévorer, même les poules. So, I decided to include this section of Beard, considering Marcel Detienne. In Comparer l'incomparable, he says the eye of the comparativist must be spontaneous. Not is more spontaneous than bring these associations so far in time and space to light. Another reason is the fact that I recognize myself in the field of the others. I'm a Latin American scholar, close to represent of the India and these giant ants. Even through I belong to a Western identity. After all, my native language, Portuguese, is derived from Latin. So, both Herodotus and Bede passage display numerous rhetorical elements that make vivid description of the anti-attack. In both cases, they highlight the powerlessness of man in the face of the collective force of the ants. There is no alternative but let them go away. The ant's force make Beard wish he had his rifle close to him. Watch out for this. Use guns to kill ants, a radical and equal inefficient solution. So, let's talk now about rhetoric. Aristotle rhetoric as a seminal for the concept of the rhetoric and this organization. The philosopher defined it a means of persuasion. Let's be rhetoric defined as ability in each particular case to see the available means of persuasion. In order to achieve this, the orator must know how to construct this argumentation. It should be a combination of logos, lexis, and pistis. You can see the second passage. Choose rhetoric is a technique that supports the development of arguments through the reflection on antonyma, character, emotion, and lexis. These are the aspects of persuasion. According to Aristotelian perspective, ethical logos should be valued, resting the appeal of emotion, and that must be subordinate to antinomy. Therefore, the rhetoric cannot be reduced persuasion alone. But its fact, the persuasion will be important in the ancient Greek society. The society is marked by the agon, and the struggle takes place through debate. Through discourse, citizens can excel in exercise of the function in the institution of the polis. So there is that idea of speak well with think well. Finally, the result of persuasion Greece rhetoric is the politic action, either in assembly or court. The Greek will personify persuasion in the deity Peito, you can see in the left side, as linked to seduction and charming words. This daimon is the daughter of Ocean and Thetis. She composed the Aphrodite's procession and is represent a young woman accompanied by a dove, you can see, and a ball of string in honor of the rain in your hands. The dove, it's associated with peace and love, and the ball of string which is finding a safe path. Choose Beto leads along path can be bring peace or the road's consensus. In turn, in India, the discourse has a centrality in such a way that they will be personified by the Indo goddess Vak. The power of the speech follow out the goddess. Vak inspired poets and artists, and it's called the mother of Vedas and the consort of Pravati. Over time, she becomes associated with the Saravasti, representing a woman who plays the sitar. You can see that. And next to her is white soul with or a white lotus, which express harmony, peace, and music. Farragondo and Hostman persuade in Indians as the sense of preserve the cultural values of the hierarchical social structure, reconcile different opinions, choose through rhetoric, important ideas, and sacred doctrines are transmitted. This can give the false idea that India, the sage, would be more concerned about the content of the speech than with the persuasive tactic for convinced by his idea. But it's not true. Both the Greek and the case discourse promote to concord. For this, we can take the rhetoric as a way of understanding, producing, and regulating persuasion to reveal a deep reflection on the full function of the word orator of the discourse. Thus, rhetoric takes care of the activity of shaping what is and how it happens in any communication. Therefore, I will best analyze some persuasion by comparison, metaphors and the sum of the words. The exercise of comparison, despite being a common practice in poetry and rhetoric, it's not something inherent to it. In Indian literature, the comparison is called upana, which broadly indicates the comparison of one thing with substantially different thing in terms of property, quality, or mode of behavior that they share. It's close to what is called simile in the Greek Latin tradition. Moreover, Rupaka, it's a figure, it's the subject of the comparison, it's identified with this object by a specific process of grammatical subordination. It's closely what is called metaphor in the Greek Latin tradition. So, in Upana, the two terms, subject and object of comparison, or Upaneia and Upanana, are compared, usually through the use of comparative particles such as like or as. The formalization between two referential statements is done in the plane of the speech. While the Rupaka, the comparison is expressed after as the identification of the two. The relationship is formalized in the symbolic plane. For example, you can see I have two ways to compare the face with the moon. Upana, your face is the moon. In Rupaka, the moon of your face. Aristotle in Rhetoric indicate that comparison can be two types, a short one, parabole, or a long one, simile. To further details, the simile is an expensive metaphor. A simile is also a metaphor, for there is a little difference. When the poets say, his hit has a lion, it's a simile, but the lion's hit, with lion referring to a man, would be a metaphor. So, since both are brave, you use a metaphor, and spoke of Achilles as a lion. So, the simile is expanded from the metaphor, and the metaphor is a movement of the alien word from heterogeneous to species, or from species to genus, from proximity to species, or by analogy. So the metaphor allows explanation through approximation. This expanded argument saved, and it's one of the best alternatives to give concrete counterless to abstract means. The simile is composed two elements, what is compared and what is compared, which external mean is attributed to the object of comparison. Therefore, the similes always generate an analogy operation. According to India terminology, the simile, I say it's composed for four elements. The Upaneia think to be compared, the subject of comparison, through which the simile related to the literal or outward sequence of ideas that constitute the framework of the poems. Compared this literary and grammatical freedom of the subject in Upana with its necessary subordination in Rupaka. 2. Upanana, or agent of comparison, the object introduced to concrete attention on the essence of aspect of behavior. 3. Sadharya Dharma, shared property, the quality of single out, and the doikata, clarifying element. The comparative adverb ina, like as, like or as, or simulate indicate. So, the symbols are recurrent in the Rigveda poetry. They are used to bring unknown facts into reality, to the family, or express something grandiose. Such a countless symbols to emphasize the beauty of the goddess Usha. You have the first example of this. And we can find in the Vedic poetry similes come in form of alliteration and the onomatoluco. It's the second example. So, interstory rhetoric, alliteration and onomatolooks are brought together into the definition of antithesis, which also highlight the fact of the act of the compute sentence, its link of development of logical reason. You can see the passage of the rhetoric in your screen. So it's here you can you have paranoises. It's when the column similar repeat into extremity. So paranoise is the repetition of the same sequence of phonemes in a certain place of the verse or stanza. In the Indian literature, it's called yamaka. Or you can translate that it's a wordplay. I have given 2 examples of this wordplay in Dadi, The Mirror of Poetry. This work, The Mirror of Poetry, is a deep investigation of similes of some examples of paranoises. To the poet, there is an infinite ways to say things, and it is a justification to him dedicate to study the simile. Include, you can say 32 subtypes of similes. So you can see the two types. The first, this poem features the song Salam, cotton tree, which is a phonic junction of sa, she, and halam, impeccable. That is repeat. Salam is also part of Salaba Kalika, formed by Salabank, pedant, and Kalika, bottom. It is observed the repeat of the words with the same compound. It's perhaps the same with the nail in the second part in the verse. The same occurs in the second example with the sequence of the color, you can see. So with this, I can demonstrate how the combination of the sounds could be persuasive, and it's the same time it's a logical operation, and you can find this in the Greek and the Indian poetry. So the second part, Tunaya Sutra, from comparative words rhetorics. Comparative perspective on the rhetoric move toward inclusion, as well a recapitulation of the other concept, which allows for opening to other cultures rhetorics to to the other cultures rhetorics to be contemplated behind the scope of the already consolidated Western rhetoric coming from the Greek and Roman tradition. From the comparative words rhetoric, no Western rhetoric can be analyzed in all terms, allowing comparison between Greece, Rome, China, and India. If Aristotle characterized rhetoric as antistrophe of dialectics, with the new rhetorics, approximation of logic and rhetoric happens, both being considered as forms as argumentation. Choose the syllogism, its place is placed in the center. In both the Indian and the Greek case, the rhetoric tradition is linked to the method of philosophical debate. An example is Nyaya Sutra, a teaching manual to bring the systematic way how to debate should be and can be cited. This manual is attributed to Gautama and I write approximately 1550 BC and circulates intensively for several centuries until it is considered right from under the vision of Vashtiana. This work contains numerous influences from the Buddhism philosopher and the Christian author. This long period of circulation makes it difficult to have some elements specified. It's common knowledge that passage from Aristotle is circulating in India in the 1st century, but it's not sufficient to support the Indian syllogism derived from the Greek use of it. So the result of the Nyaya Sutra, it's a numerous influence. From the Nyaya Sutra, you have 3 kinds of debate. You can see in top of the screen. The first, the honest debate. The second, the tricky debate, and third, the destructive debate. You won't go, it's defeat the opponent. The proposal of this debate is to lead the listener to a conclusion, to kind of debate. This process is called Avayava, maybe so-called India syllogism. It's a five-part method because 5-part methods of argument presentation could provide the center of Nyaya perspective. So you can see the second part, the 5-part, Prajama proposition, Hetu a reason, Drisnanta an example, Upanaya a reformation, Nigamana the conclusion. This type of syllogism is it's derived from Nyayanika tradition and was later defined by Buddhist logic. This syllogism differs from Aristotle's model, which has one universal premise and another particular one in order to reach a conclusion. In the Indian tradition, the deductive method is called Dari. It is Nyaya syllogism. It's based in pairs of particular case. So, I know I have no time enough. So, in Aristotle, you have the etneme and the example, deductive and inductive reasoning. But I pass to comparison of the kind of logic. So in Aristotle, the example must be used a particular case in most effective to persuasive audience. In turn, the etneme occurs through true or probable sentence. This do not necessarily have to be universal or true, but must be accepted by the audience as such. In the Aristotle's rhetoric, to persuade someone, it's make him believe that such statement is correct. By inductive belief through arguments, we try to produce indirect judgments, judgments that revolve around previous judgments about a certain piece of evidence present to us. This prior judgment provides us with the reason of to infer, provide your behavior is motivated by practice of reference text if correct, it support concludes to arrive to such judgments. So for this, you can see the table. You can note that the Indian case, the pattern of inference is not generally own. It turns this attention to be with effects, like smokeless, and effect causes. So Nyaya Sutra challenged the orator to consider the motive and not focus only in the result, if you can persuade our audience or not. It also increases the orator ability to perceive probability, as precognitive can only go so far, and it really can go much, and the reality can go much so further. So for Lloyd, for Niyama Sutra, it's possible to think the analogy in discourse, rhetoric, and approaching logic and rhetoric. Just the goal with Nyaya Sutra, it's caution, inquiry, and consensus, but it ought to disregard the health of harmony of self-abnegation. Therefore, more important than victory through persuasion is the action of seeing together. The author and the audience are side by side. Therefore, I agree with Zimmer that dialectics cannot be separated from the rhetoric and the ancient Greek, India, and you can tell Chinese society. The important is for the scholar to highlight the context also of comparison, example, and analogy. And for this purpose, the word comparative rhetoric is very, very useful. Some conclusions. The comparison, something fundamental of the rhetorical exercise, because it's allowed to speaker to get close to this audience, is also important to the scholar today. Through comparison, it's possible to recognize different cultures, its our terms, and how some attribution are given to them. According to Detienne, the comparison is excellent to learn and live with others. For the comparison between Greek and between Greek and Indian rhetoric, I try to highlight what I consider important to persuasion. First, I present how comparison, symbolism, metaphor come before through an elaborate work of language, produce a sound effect which it's capable to persuading. The comparison led us to think about the construction of argumentative methods. In general line, the Greek rhetoric through to Aristotle, values of deduction, euthymeme, which the Indian rhetoric in the Nyaya Sutra is a combination of inductive and deductive methods. So the rhetoric cannot be limited to the means of persuasion, but it should be understood as a whole set of methods of organization. I'm just finishing. So, currently, the vertiginous speed of the movement processed by the community is attacked to critical reasoning. Simple by surprising the time of necessary, simply by surprise, the time necessary to the relationship between language and critical reasoning to develop. With the development of the new social media, it's a large amount of information can change quickly, which directly impacts the people action. To use ancient rhetorics provide mechanisms to counter such situation and to combat to review to fake news. On the other hand, Nyata Sutra highlights the importance of the truthful debate. Aristotle, on his turn, is quite helpful to demonstrate the path of persuasion and how this path can contain manipulation and distortion. Therefore, know about persuasion is now how we can build false judgment and choose about them. My epilogue. So, I finished my paper, return to the description of the ants mentioned in the prologue, which reinforced the stereotype of the exotism of both India and Brazil. Look at that country through the lens of the exotism only serves to reaffirm a prior bias and not to really know its place in your own terms. Alternate the exotic or to the healthy comparison could be a good alternative. However, the comparison will only be effective when it had promote the knowledge of the other alternative, and not to conform a scale of the value that reform prejudice. The ants might not be judged, but united to struggle a superiority bird's rifle. This imagine to use guns to kill ants, to me, it's a metaphor to present days. After all, the apple is the ultimate expression of the violence, especially physical violence. We cannot let the solution to problem lie to the sphere of physical violence. There are other ways to resolve your disagreement, such binding consensus. Consensus is a complex operation since the opposite party must accept what is proposed by the majority. You ought to want to prevail through by the use of the force. In my opinion, what the Greek and Indo rhetoric teach us is the refuse of the violence, the consensus abroad through persuasion, as well the affirmation of importance of knowing the way of the persuasion, to take a critical position in the world. Therefore, rhetoric is related to debate and consensus. To finish, I want to express we let be more like ant, unite your voice in the refuse of physical violence and value the verbal expression and use it to reason. Thank you so much, and sorry for if I passed the time. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice presentation. Do we have any questions?
Otto, let me, Priscilla, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
I'm ruminating on another one, but let me just ask you to clarify what the, I didn't grasp this very well. What the significance of consensus is here vis-a-vis violence?
Sorry, you think its consensus could be a violence?
No.
No?
Otto, do you have a better way of rephrasing this?
He was asking if, actually I forgot, sorry. Mukashi, could you,
okay.
could you ask again?
How are we to understand what is the significance of consensus with respect to the problem of violence? Is consensus, general consensus, a solution to the problem of violence?
I think it's one way to solution. Because maybe if how I try to explain in my paper, I think you could be a solution with the speech, with the word, and not use the violence or on the force, one kind of the force. So, and the step by this, maybe it's the alignment, how building this solution. The people understand how building this solution, make part of this, contribute of, and I think it's debate. It's this characteristic to do the person with this feeling of part. So I think it's. I know it could be like a dreamer. I know that, but the other side, if you not defend this, what do we defend? What is the other path? Just we have to accept the violence. It's the world work this way. Let's continue. Yeah, I think if you go deeper, I think it's a problem, essential problem of democracy.
You mean consensus is a problem of democracy?
No. If you no, because it's not a problem, because democracy, it's one way to build a consensus together. It's a major popular of people, but it's always building. It's not. It's never ends.
Never ending.
Never ending. Never.
It's an infinite progress.
Yes, but yeah. I think I prefer this endless problem to go to the path to violence.
Right. Otto, could I spell out the question that I had in store?
Yes.
Yes. Right? Well, this clearly is related to my earlier interventions, but what Priscilla mentioned. Kavyadarsha, you referred to this mirror of poems of poetry, this very ancient writing. To what extent is it poetic itself? To what extent is language a mirror? And I mean, there are notions that you brought up that refer to truth. To what extent is language to be understood as a mirror of truth? Now, when you cite Zimmermann, in the French, and he has this suggestion that, I mean, the example is the preuve, is the proof. So you prove through example. One could say, well, there is something related to this in the Anglo-Saxon legal system, right? Because we look at earlier examples to make a case in a legal setting, but it also bespeaks, in fact, a general understanding of law, and perhaps works together with a traditionalist approach to life. So one could take that to the extreme, of course, and have the tradition, shall we say, as the standard. This could, of course, develop, or depending on how you're looking at this, degenerate into a caste system where, I mean, you are what you belong to. I mean, the proof, I mean, it's sort of a justification, the fact that you resemble someone, that you're part of that group, justifies your being there. Yeah, you see? Consensus, yeah? Is consensus a free-floating autonomous entity, or should we understand it as necessarily exposed to the question of truth? And thus consensus as a question mark, not as an exclamation mark. A question, a problem, not a solution. I mean, there is such a thing as the tyranny of the majority, yeah? And that could be very violent, yeah? Yes? It is. I'm wondering to what extent we can understand this this ideal of infinite progress towards universal collaboration and consensus as a solution.
So, okay.
It's a can of worms, yeah?
Yeah,
I don't want to make it difficult for you, but it's difficult for me.
First, there is one truth.
One truth?
Yes, it's only one truth.
Depending on how you understand the truth.
You can say, so for example, in Telaya, it's more interesting because Telaya, it's various, plural. If the truth it's one, with why we using, for example, comparison? My first thought is so I say that because I don't have the answer. It's one thing. Yes. It's blown my mind.
Yes.
Especially nowadays with the radical speech, I'm very careful to talk about true and one true. So I think it's consensus. We can live together, my truth, your truth. Without one fight each other. And how for many times the comparison is used just to justify a scale of values. So I clear very you have the north, the western at the top, and the others, all the others. And how I see in my paper, I don't know what kind of others I am, because sometimes I'm see it's part of Western, sometimes I'm exotic. I'm not the Western. Sometimes I'm more my approach from India, China, Africa than to Western civilization. But I have this no place, and I think it's no place. Let me think about it. Is what is the true and why have one true? And so I give back the question with you.
I
know I not respond correctly.
No, it's okay. There's no.
But I prefer very simple way. I prefer the tyranny of majority because I'm part of the majority. Let's talk about what it's me. I'm a woman, Latin America, young. I'm no voice in the world.
Wait, you forgot human being.
But I'm if you talk about the system, I'm not voice in the system. If I could talk.
But that's wonderful. Way. That's wonderful, Priscilla, because you're not in the grid.
But I want to be listen
in the grid.
Because I think I can talk something, and I don't use the violence to this. I use my voice and to me, the democracy, it's many problems, many problems, but it's it's not the only, but it's nowadays it's the system where the people can speak and can freedom and speak, it's very relationship with democracy. And I talk about democracy because I study rhetoric because of the democracy, not so I defend the everyone could and must talk, speak, and the people must learn how to speak, and now the rhetoric it could help to this.
If I could pick it up here, I think I'm sort of with both Mukashi and Priscilla, so I'm sort of supporting both of you here, because
Marco,
take a contemporary example now. I believe there is, as Mukashi Marco said, I believe there is something like the tyranny of the majority, but the tyranny of the majority is really dangerous only when the people actually can't think. But this is the case at the moment, and we see it, for instance, in Finland at the moment, my home country, where 80% of the people, maybe someone is for NATO, I'm against NATO. So I'm just going to say it now, I'm against NATO. And now we are part of NATO very soon because people can't think. 80% people want to be part of NATO because they refuse to think. They just go.
But Otto, why do you need to think if you have a television?
Well, exactly. But then you go into NATO and then suddenly you realize that your son is going to get killed in Afghanistan the next week. You know, so
yeah.
That's the price you pay for not thinking, right?
Yeah, but
and that's where rhetoric can help, and that's where I'm again.
Yeah, you have to think and to think to speak. Yeah, because I prefer learning about to think and speak to be aristocracy, for example.
Definitely, yes, I agree. If we could have a democracy where people would think, that
who
would be best. We don't have that.
Who decide who is the better? Who is the side? It's the problem for aristocracy.
No one is the better. I agree. I don't believe in aristocracy either, except in cases where we actually have a tyranny of the masses.
There will always, should we agree? Shall we agree that there will always be an aristocracy? You can change the name, yeah? You know, the Romans hated the word king, but they didn't mind emperor, council, and so forth. All you needed to do is change the name, and then they loved him. But if you called him a king, Rex, oh, terrible, get rid of him. So, you know, it's tricky, huh? Rhetoric, huh? The art of speech, yeah, it helps you understand that not to be a literalist, to stick to words, yeah, the letter, and to see that there are real problems. You can't get rid of we got rid of slavery because we got rid of the name. There is slavery, it's rampant. There are various guises of slavery too. And the worst slave is the one who doesn't know he's a slave, yeah? So, I mean, it's tricky. Well, are we trying? Priscilla, are you trying through your art of your understanding of rhetoric, of speech, to get rid of an aristocracy? Or are we not by nature, I mean, set up this way in the world? We will always have masters and people who are on the bottom.
No, I think its future is open.
It's
open. The future is open.
The future is open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
How
good
can
luck with that.
how can I say? I prefer be a dreamer. I know it's difficult, but you have to fight against this. You must. I think it's
Yeah, well, they've tried. They've
yeah.
tried.
I
think, or we'll
we
see
try
where
with
that goes. But hey,
we words. I think if you continue to try, I think it's not definitely victory, but it's a process. It's a continuous process.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Priscilla. I really liked your paper, and I liked all papers in this conference. I like the whole conference very much. So, yeah. So my plan was actually to ask you to write revised versions of your papers and send them to me like in 2 months, 3 months. What would you prefer, 2 months or 3 months as a deadline? Let's put something like
I'm good with tomorrow.
Let's put 2 months, and yeah, and we go from there. And I try to put together an anthology which I will present then for this journal, Ancient Worlds, which I've been discussing with. So, but I'll send you also information about this through email. So you can all decide if you want to take part in it. Then you just work on your papers and send them to me. So we'll publish them hopefully in that journal. Otherwise, we find some less prestigious journal. But I hope that we will be able to get them published in that Ancient Worlds journal. At least that's what they told me would be possible. So yeah, hope you liked the conference and had a good time, as good time as I had, because I had a great time.
Thank you, Otto. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Otto.
Ciao, Sergio.
Thank you, everybody. Ciao. Ciao, Marco.